Hello everyone and welcome back to the She Shed. Today's tutorial will be on this snood or cowl or hoodie scarf, but I call it a snood. It is super simple, it is very quick to make up. It only took me about an hour and a half to do this. We are using the V-stitch, and if you know double crochet and half double crochet, easy as. The half double crochet makes it look bigger up the top and the bottom, which actually works out really well because it will fit comfortably around your head. Now this I made as a small, so either a small head or for a child size. The wool I used for this is big value, chunky. It is King Cole. I had personally never come across this before. I bought this on Marketplace from somebody who was selling 40 balls of it. I'm always in for a good bargain, and it is premium acrylic. It is very, very soft. It's very nice. 100 grams, I used one and a teeny bit of another ball. I would roughly say for a small or child size, use 150 grams, and then obviously more if you are going to make for an adult size. But I'm not going to do this tutorial with this wool. I'm going to use this wool. The yarn that I'm using to do this adult size snood is Florentine Collection 50 Venice, made in Italy. This is a acrylic, 60% acrylic, 30% wool, 5% silk and 5% linen. It is super soft. I love using this yarn. I've used different colors for multiple projects. It is really nice, super easy to work up. I got this from our store in Australia called Spotlight. I normally buy up all their end of season yarn, so I do not know if they still stock this yarn anymore. They might do different versions. They are constantly bringing out new kinds of yarn. Yeah, super lovely. The hooks I will be using for my cast on, my chain, I will be using this 8mm hook. And I do recommend that you use a larger hook to cast on, or do your chain, because then it won't be so tight. And then the rest I am doing in this hook, which is a 7. Okay, let's get started. Starting with our 8mm hook, we need to chain 72 for the adult size cowl, and if you are doing a smaller head cowl or the children's size cowl, then chain 60. You may do this to any size you require. It's purely up to you and the preference that you have. Just make sure that your chain is a multiple of 3s. That is what the V stitch requires, is a multiple of 3. So if you would like a really long cowl, or you can even make this into a cowl, shorter, or you can make this into a much longer snood, and you would like it to be longer around your neck, make it as long as you like. Just make sure you're doing it as a multiple of 3. So for this adult cowl or snood, I am doing 72 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 72 stitches in our chain. And we need to get this obviously into a circle. Now you can try and straighten out your chain and see if you can get it to be straight, and then attach the chain. But more often than not, it will actually twist on you, and you start doing your first row and you find you have a massive twist. So the way I do this is I will do my first row and then I will attach it together much easier, and then you can join the end later and you will not notice the join on this. I think it's there. So very hard. I know that that is the seam, so I do know where my join is, but the only reason why I actually can see that is because I can see the seam. Okay, so change hooks, go to your 7. You can actually do this in any size yarn that you like. Just make sure that you have the right hook for the yarn that you are using, and that you have it to the length that you require, and you have it as a multiple of 3s. Okie dokie. So chain 1, and then you're going to work your first stitch in the back of the stitch, and that the reason why I don't do into the front and to the V. I don't do it into the V there, I do it into the bubble at the back, and then you'll have a really nice edge like on there. Okay, so into the first stitch we're doing a half double crochet, so yarn over into the back of the stitch, pull the loop through and go through all 3. Yarn over into the back of the bubbles on the back of the stitch, pull loop through and through the 3. Yarn over into the back of the bubble, pull a loop through, yarn over, go through 3. Yarn over into the back, yarn over, pull the loop through and yarn over, pull through 3. Yarn over, back of the stitch, pull through a loop, yarn over, pull through the 3. Now continue doing this half double crochet all the way along to the end. I will do the rest of this off camera and I'll meet you back at the end. Okay, so the end of row 1 you should have 72 stitches. If you do not have 72 stitches, you may have forgotten to do the extra chain at the end to start the first row. It is important that you have the multiple of 3 stitches, so in this case 72, because the V-stitch won't work unless you have the multiples of 3. The next thing we need to do is make sure to make this into a loop, and make sure that it is flat, that you've got the right side up, work along, oops, and then you want to slip stitch into the first stitch to join your ring. Okay, so it looks a bit flappy, but this tail here is going to join those two together down there. and then chain 2. Alright, just make sure that it hasn't got any twists, and this, you can see why now we do it after the first row. Join the circle, because otherwise you won't be able to keep it as straight as what we have here. Now, I always turn my work when I am doing single crochets. It makes that ribby pattern, which I quite like, and also it's much easier to work into the stitch. Okay, and then I just, in every stitch is a half double crochet, so continue with your half double crochets until you get back to that chain 2 that you created to start off with. So show you again, I chained 2, then in the first stitch yarn over through the stitch, yarn over, pull through the loop, yarn over, pull through the 3, yarn over through the stitch, pull through a loop, yarn over, pull through the 3, yarn over through the stitch, pull through a loop, yarn over, pull through 3, and continue going around until you get back to your chain there, and it's quite obvious because it's bigger. Okay, so I'm going to continue going around, and I will meet you back up at the end of this row. I'm at the end of row 2 now, and you should have been able to match up to the beginning of your row without a twist. If there was a twist, unfortunately, you will have to undo it again and rejoin so you don't have that twist. So before you join your second row together, make sure you have 72 stitches. Okay, and then once you've made sure you've got 72 stitches, slip stitch into the first stitch of the second row. So it's just pulling the yarn through and pull the yarn through again. Okay, and then we are on to row 3. So chain 2, turn into your first stitch, half double crochet, yarn over through the stitch, pull through a loop, yarn over, pull through 3, and you just continue your half double crochets all the way around for row 3. I am going to continue, and I will meet you back. I will meet you back at the end of this row. At the end of row 3 now, once again make sure you have 72 stitches, and then when you do, slip stitch into the first stitch of your row, slip stitch, there we go, and there's row 3 finished. Now you need to do this 5 times, so you've got 2 more rows to do. And once again, you are chaining 2, turn over, work your double crochets from your first stitch around, and continue on. So do this for 2 more rows, and I will meet you up at the end of row 5. At the end of the 5th row, join your 2 rows together like you have been with a single crochet, with a slip stitch. Okay, and that should be your 5 rows done for your band down the bottom or up the top, because it's reversible, so it really does matter. Okay, so to start the V-stitch, the next row, alrighty, so chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm actually going to turn. You can pick which, it doesn't matter which side you are doing it. I just find it easier to start my rows when I turn. Now this is the last time you will need to turn until you get to the band on the other side. In your first stitch, you are going to do a double crochet. So this is yarn over into the stitch, say the first stitch, and this will be the same that you did your chain. So that one there. So yarn over into the stitch, pull the loop through, pull through, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2, and that makes your V. You are going to skip 2 stitches, so skip 1, skip 2, and do a double crochet in the 3rd one along. So you've got your first V stitch here, skip 1, skip 2, double crochet into this one. So yarn over, go into the stitch, pull your yarn through, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over again, pull through 2. That's your double crochet, and then chain 1. We're going to do another double crochet straight into the same stitch. So yarn over into the stitch, pull through a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through the other 2, and there's your V stitch. Miss 2, double crochet, chain, double crochet in the same stitch. Okay, so you can see we now have 3 V's. Let's keep going. Miss 2, double crochet in the stitch, chain 1, double crochet again in the same stitch, miss 2, double crochet in the stitch, chain 1, double crochet again in the same stitch. Okay, so keep going with that and I will meet you back at the beginning of this row. Okay, at the end of row 6, where you should be your first row of V-stitch, you should end up with a V-stitch and then 2 stitches. That's exactly what you want. So V-stitch, 2 stitch, which means you're going to join to the top of your first V-stitch, and you just do a slip stitch into the top of that one. Can be a bit tricky. Make sure you get both of the loops. There we go. There we go. And that is your first row of V-stitch. Super simple. Okay, and this is where it gets even easier because it is going to just grow really simply. And how do you do this next row and the following rows after that? Okay, so let's start on row 7. And this is going to be exactly the same for every single row after this until you have it as long as you would like it. To start the next row, you will need to chain 4. That's 2, 3, 4. So into the first V where you had that chain stitch there, we're going to do our second double crochet. So this counts as the first double crochet and the chain, and then our second double crochet goes into there, and that makes our V. Then we are going to go straight into the next V. So we do our double crochet into that V, we chain 1, and then we do our second double crochet, and there's our second V. Let's do that again. So go straight into the next V and double crochet, chain 1, and back in and double crochet again. Next V, double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. Next V, double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet, whoops, again. Alrighty. So you're doing your V's in your V's, and this is why it's so quick to work up, because all you need to do is just keep doing your 2 double crochets in each V, and it grows so quickly. So you can see now why it took only an hour and a half-ish to make this up. It is so quick, and you just keep going around and around and around and around. So let's finish this row together. So double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, same stitch, move to the next V, double crochet, oops, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, next V, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, next V. Okay, I'm going to finish these last V's and I will meet you back at the end of the row. Alright, so I did my last V, and then to join your row together is a slip stitch again. Just remember it's at the top of that chain 4 that you had there. So 1, 2, there's my 2 stitches, so I want to go in the top of this one. So I'm just going to slip my hook through there. Make sure you've gone through you have the 2 top stitches there, then slip your yarn through and through. There we go, and you joined. Super simple. And you just keep going around. Always remember when you're going to your next row to chain 4, then go into the same stitch, which is your first V, and do your double crochet, and then double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in each and every V. Oops. And there we go. And you just keep going and going and going until you have the length that you require. So I'm going to continue mine off camera. Okay, so we've done the body of the snood. So what we're up to now is to do the top band, and let's get started on that. We're sticking with the same hook. Okay, so what we need to do now is chain 2. Now and then you are going in each V stitch 2 half double crochets, and each non-V stitch 1 half double crochet. Okay, so V's 2, non-V's 1. Okay, so let's go through that. So 1 half double crochet, and this one that we've done here as the chain counts as a half double crochet, and then 1 half double crochet in there, and then in here 2 half double crochets, 1 and then 2. 1 and then 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, and then 1, 2. So remember, each non-V is a 1, 1 half double crochet, and in the V 2 half double crochets, and keep going around, and by the end you should have set back to 72 stitches, stitches, and I will meet you back at the beginning of the row. Okay, so back at the end of that row, so your first row of the top band, and just join the first stitch and the last stitch with a slip stitch, okay, making sure to have 72 stitches all around, and then chain 2, turn your work, and then a half double crochet in every stitch. And remember, you are doing 5 rows of this to match the 5 rows that you had at the beginning, and so this is now row number 2, and you will join at the end of each row exactly the same as what you did at the beginning. And to start the next row, chain 2, turn and continue. Now, and I'm going to meet you back here at the end of the 5th row. At the end of row 5, okay, so, and conveniently at the end of the ball. Couldn't have made that even more perfect. Alright, so all we need to do is just slip stitch the first stitch of the row to the last, and then bring it through your yarn through. If you haven't finished your ball like me, then just cut it off and bring it through. Okay, so sew in the ends, your needle, yarn needle, and I've got 1 or 2 ends to sew in because I used 3 balls and exactly, and so the first one is to join the bottom that we started out with our chain, so joining the chain together. So go through the bottom of the first stitch. Don't bring it too tightly in. Go through the bottom of your last stitch and don't pull it too tight, because what you're trying to do is mimic a V of a stitch and make it look the same. Alright, and then when you've got that, when you're happy with that, there we go, sew in the end. Need my scissors. Alright, and I'm going to, when I sew in my ends, I go backwards and forwards, and then I come back over to the last place where it went in, and then bring it up through, and same thing. And this, if it ever got loose, oh, I pulled in the other thread, that's funny. If it ever got loose, it's let's get that out. It's already knotted. Alright, I've got a few ends that I've got to weave in, so I'm going to weave those in and then show you a photo of this finished. I've really enjoyed making this. It's super quick, super simple, really easy. This one's lovely and soft, but I must admit I absolutely love wool. As I said, you can do it with any yarn. Just make sure your hook is the right size, that you've got the right length that you want for yourself, the width that you want for yourself. Just remember to do your chain count to a multiple of 3, and then just work it as long as you want. You can do a band, you can do without a band. It's purely up to you how you would like to do this. Simple, quick, as I said, only takes about an hour and a half to make. Hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any questions, please put it in the comments below. Happy to answer any questions that you have. And please, also, if you have made this up, show me your photos. I'd love to see everything. Alrighty, take care everybody. Goodbye, and see you again next time at the She Shed.